Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a really rich set of sources, basically a deeply personal history. We're going to try and extract some foundational truths about, well, modern resilience.
Exactly. We're focusing on a specific case study, the event planner Cara Hunter and NHL player Emmett Brodie. Their lives give us this incredibly detailed look at trauma, self-worth, family, all of it.
Yeah, it's quite the story. Our goal here is to sort of cut through the narrative, the romance even, and pull out the lessons, give you a shortcut to understanding how people heal, how they redefine success when the usual paths don't work out.
Especially around things like family building, support systems, finding your worth outside of just career or, well, biology.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The connection between Cara and Emmett. It kicks off about 3.5 years before the main events at a charity fundraiser.
Right, and the charity is key. Family project, a children's home. That detail comes back later, significantly.
So you've got Cara. She's described as, super witty, 5'10", runs her own event planning business, fete and flair, very persuasive.
A force, basically. And then there's Emmett Brodie. He's a defenseman for the Vipers hockey team. Tall, golden hair. The type.
But their meeting isn't exactly smooth. It's pure Cara, really. Chaotic. She's trying to manage the event, avoid dating players for business reasons, and declares,
I don't get on my knees for new-ups. I'm on my knees, and bam, she slips.
Skittles and M&Ms everywhere. A very specific mix, apparently. It kind of sums her up, right? Controlled chaos.
Totally. But it's not just the candy spill. It's how she handles his teammate, Carter Beckett, right after.
Ah, yes, the infamous Carter bucket. She just shuts him down. Mistakenly, but still.
It wasn't just a mistake, though. It was psychological fencing. She nails him with this perfect, slightly patronizing nickname, a soft smile. It's pure boundary protection. She's shielding her professional space, her emotional space.
And Emmett's reaction is interesting. He doesn't laugh, doesn't try to rescue her. He just stands there.
Right. The sources say he's mesmerized. Hands in his hair, murmuring, speechless. He's taking in the whole determined package, not just the mishap. That observation is crucial.
It suggests something deeper than just, a meet cute.
Absolutely. It feels like recognition. And for Emmett, that feeling becomes overwhelming, fast. Like hours after they first sleep together, which is their first date, he tells her he's going to marry her.
Whoa. Okay. That's intense. He'd already looked into her life, too.
He had. He tells her, I see my future as clear as day.
Is that like a sign of stability he's craving? Or just athlete determination applied to love? Or maybe both?
I think it's definitely both. You have to understand, Emmett's childhood was, it was constant chaos. He was always bracing himself. So seeing Cara, this force of nature who's protective but also inherently good, it's like an anchor.
A clear emotional truth for him.
Exactly. That certainty is an antidote to the instability he grew up with. But Cara, true to form, pushes back. She makes him wait, demands respect for her boundaries. She's not going to be some impulse.
So her control balances his intensity. That makes sense.
And that need for control, you see it in Cara, too. She has this habit, this observational tool. She watches people's hands.
Right. Looking for fidgeting, tapping, any unsteadiness. It's more than a quirk, isn't it? It feels like a defense mechanism, trying to gauge predictability.
Precisely. And that insight turns out to be absolutely foundational because Emmett, he comes into this relationship carrying some really profound wounds, emotional abuse.
Cara's ability to read people lets her see past the big NHL player image. She sees the kids still needing validation.
Yeah, and we need to dig into that abuse because it shapes everything later. His mother.
Yeah.
The sources describe what we call love bombing now.
Explain that a bit.
It's this cycle. Intense praise and affection, then suddenly switching to criticism, devaluation. It makes the victim desperate for the good part again.
So his mom would say awful things like, he deserved to be burned for touching a hot cookie tray, call him in the way.
Exactly. Then later, smother him with affection. It taught Emmett that love was totally conditional, that he was basically an inconvenience. That creates this deep, ingrained guilt and self-blame he carries right into adulthood.
And his father. He brought a different kind of chaos. Loud, mean.
Intimidating, yeah. But the really damaging part was the misplaced rage. He didn't just get angry. He deliberately destroyed things Emmett loved. Meaningful things.
Like his grandmother's china. Or that diorama he made of an outdoor rink. That's incredibly cruel.
It's psychological warfare. The china represented family connection. The diorama, personal achievement, passion. The father wasn't just mad. He was dismantling Emmett's sources of joy, of pride.
Why the diorama?
This Source mentions an incident where Emmett's little brother was upset, and he went to Emmett for comfort, not the dad. So the dad destroyed the diorama. He punished Emmett for succeeding where he felt he'd failed. He made Emmett responsible for his own inadequacy.
Wow, okay. That's a huge violation of trust, destroying tangible proof of the kid's self-worth. But Emmett didn't see it that way initially, did he?
No. And this is critical. He told Cara he wasn't abusive, at least. Meaning, not physically abusive.
That's such a common coping mechanism, isn't it? Minimizing it.
Textbook. When the abuse is emotional or psychological, survivors often downplay it. It's almost easier to think it wasn't that bad than to accept that the people meant to protect you actively hurt you. That minimization is why his self-worth issues were so buried for so long.
And you mentioned his career. Being a high-profile athlete, does that external success help, or does it just mask the internal stuff? Does that trauma make him more prone to feeling like a failure later, say, with the infertility?
That's a great question. And yes, absolutely. The NHL success is external validation, but it doesn't touch the core wound. So when he faces something like infertility, where pure determination doesn't guarantee success,
that old feeling comes roaring back, that he's flawed, in the way.
instantly, it made him incredibly vulnerable to that kind of struggle. But the turning point, the real shift, came from Cara.
She just stated a fact, didn't she?
Simple, precise. She just tilted her head and said, because emotional abuse is still abuse.
And that landed differently for him.
Profoundly. He called it oddly validating. Because it finally shifted the blame off him. For years, he'd been trying to figure out why his dad acted that way, what he did wrong, how he could fix it.
But it wasn't his fault.
And it never was. Cara's statement basically said, it's not you, Emmett. That was the start of his real healing. It let him actually hear her advice later about, his own opinion being the only one that matters, celebrating small wins.
And this whole process, their relationship, his healing, it wasn't happening in a vacuum. There was this other crucial element.
The Vipers family. Yeah, this huge chosen family, Carter and Olivia, Adam and Rosie, Garrett, Jenny, Jackson, Lennon, Hank. This whole crew.
They provided the functional family model he never had.
It's more than just friends. It's like a therapeutic community. They're stable, they show up, they model how to handle conflict, they offer unconditional support. It's the complete opposite of the chaos and conditional love he grew up with.
And that collective stability, that chosen family, it really sets the stage for how they handled the next massive challenge.
Which is a much quieter battle, but just as devastating.
Yeah, the silent war, as the sources call it, this 29-month struggle with infertility. It takes us deep into the emotional, the technical nightmare of it all.
It started with trying naturally, then moved to IUI, and finally, the really tough, invasive process of IVF.
Silent war feels right. It's this grief that's often invisible, fought privately. The toll on both of them must have been immense.
Oh, absolutely. Starting with just the technical indignities.
Like Emmett and Nurse Sheila, the cum police.
Right, enforcing 5 days of celibacy before the IUI to maximize sperm count. It sounds almost funny, but imagine the pressure. Here's this elite athlete whose body is his tool, supposed to perform under pressure.
And suddenly he's facing performance anxiety over this basic biological function under clinical scrutiny. It's incredibly vulnerable.
Totally. And for Cara, the burden was relentless, physically and psychologically. The hormone injections, the gonal F pen that Emmett had to give her in the stomach, daily, painful.
Making her feel disconnected from her own body, right. And then the progesterone suppositories. She had a description for those.
Like rocket launching up her body every morning, plus daily blood work, the hormonal swings, the discomfort, and then the diagnosis.
Diminished ovarian reserve. For someone like Cara, who prides herself on capability, on controlling variables, facing a biological reality like that must have been shattering.
Completely destabilizing. And then came the outside world, the insensitivity. This is where it gets really painful and sadly really universal for people going through this.
Emmett's mother's reaction when Cara told her.
Immediately suggested Cara clean up her eating habits, implying it was somehow Cara's fault, her lifestyle. Classic blame shifting.
Ugh. And then Craig's girlfriend, Sasha. That story's just, wow.
After hearing about the diagnosis, Sasha casually mentions her own 3 kids were accidents. One conceived while on the pill and using condoms.
And she actually mused out loud about how wild it is that someone like her gets pregnant easily, while someone like Cara, actively trying, struggles so much.
The lack of awareness is staggering. It just rubs salt in the wound, highlighting the unfairness, making Cara's struggle feel almost pointless. It's like these little emotional paper cuts day after day.
Even strangers piled on unintentionally. That woman in the coffee shop.
Yeah, seeing Cara looking tired and sad, tells her she's lucky to be childless, talking about clean houses and sleep, completely missing the invisible grief.
It's that disconnect between the public idea of childlessness and the private reality of infertility. So isolating.
And all this pressure, external and internal, just drove Cara into this deep crisis of self-worth. She started thinking of herself as inadequate, defective, a failure.
The sources describe her looking in the mirror and whispering, "I hate you." That's rock bottom. The biological process led her to hating her body, hating herself.
Yeah. She felt like she'd failed completely. She became obsessed with calendars, symptoms, trying every silly superstition, just desperate for some control over the uncontrollable.
Which led to that awful breakdown, collapsing, weeping, crying out, "I hate myself," because she felt she couldn't give Emmett the baby he wanted. Her resilience just broke.
It's the moment her professional confidence or personal strength completely failed her. She tied her entire value to her reproductive ability.
So Emmett, given his own journey, his own healing, how did he respond? This seems like a crucial test for him, too.
His response is everything, because he doesn't try to fix it. He doesn't minimize her pain. He focuses completely on her health, her value, separate from the outcome.
When she said that thing, "If it weren't for me, you'd be a dad already," how did he counter that?
Instantly, unconditionally. He basically told her his life would be empty without her. If it weren't for you, I'd be alone and miserable. We both know I don't exist without you by my side.
He kept defining her by her character, not her biology.
Exactly. Calling her strength personified, a wildflower, his firefly. That firefly metaphor, it's about her inner light.
And he explicitly told her she was enough.
You are enough for me, and I will spend my days treasuring this immaculate gift I've been given. He made it absolutely clear. Her value was inherent to him, regardless of what her body could or couldn't do. That promise was the lifeline she needed to start pulling herself back.
Okay, so that realization that Cara's well-being was the priority, not the biological outcome, that's what allows them to shift gears, right?
Yeah, it triggers the pivot. After 2 failed IUIs, the IVF struggle, losing embryos, they only had 2 viable ones left. The physical and emotional cost was just too high. So they started looking seriously at other paths.
Adoption, surrogacy, or fostering. And that connection to the family project comes back into play.
Right, it wasn't a desperate leap into the unknown. It felt like an organic next step, built on something they already valued, which leads them to Abel.
Abel, 3.5 years old, needing a stable home. But Cara was scared, wasn't she? Scared of getting attached.
Understandably terrified. After all the loss, the grief of losing the hope of biological children, the thought of loving a child and then potentially losing him too, she actually whispered, "I am so tired of saying goodbye." It's pure self-protection.
But Emmett's connection with Abel was different.
Why?
Quieter.
Immediate. Emmett's used to being watched, on the ice. He recognizes that same quiet, watchful quality in Abel. He just gets him, gives him his Viper's hat. A simple gesture of acceptance.
And Abel's history, it's disturbingly similar to Emmett's, isn't it?
It's a direct parallel, which creates this incredible dynamic for healing. Abel suffered emotional abuse from his grandparents, Peter and Elizabeth. Systematic stuff, yelling for spilling milk, throwing out his crayons if he colored outside the lines.
Just like the environmental chaos and punishment Emmett faced, Abel's stutter, his anxiety, it's the result of that trauma, always afraid of making a mistake.
And this gives Emmett the chance to actively break the cycle. Watching Abel slowly learn to trust, to just be a kid, it's like a corrective experience for Emmett himself.
There's that moment where Abel shatters a bowl of ice cream.
And Emmett's reaction is the polar opposite of his own father's would have been. He focuses on Abel's fear, reassures him instantly, doesn't care about the mess, doesn't punish the mistake. He gives Abel the unconditional safety he never got.
So fostering Abel isn't just about helping a child, it's Emmett reparenting himself therapeutically.
Absolutely. And Cara finds her own path to healing through Abel, too.
How so?
Abel's love for her is just pure, unconditional. He calls her Auntie Kawa, wants to fear his treats, gets excited about new rain boots. He sees her, Cara, not a body that failed. His love is entirely relational.
And that helps her move past the judgment she had about herself, about her body.
It helps her forgive herself. It reinforces that her capacity to mother, to love and be loved, was never tied to her biology.
This part of the story also involves Abel's birth mother, Catherine. Her story is powerful, too.
Very. She had Abel at 15. Her parents saw him as a consequence. She initially placed him in the system, genuinely believing she couldn't be the mom he needed. There was this awful visit where he begged her not to leave him again. Heartbreaking.
But Cara supported Catherine, didn't she? Encouraged her to focus on herself first.
Radically supported her, helped her see her own worth, supported her getting her GED, a job, writing poetry. Cara told her, "You get to choose yourself," recognizing that Catherine needed her own stability before she could provide it for Abel.
And Catherine eventually saw what Cara and Emmett were providing for Abel.
She saw him thriving. She saw them giving him the childhood I always wanted him to have. It was that realization, that profound love for her son's well-being that led her to make an incredibly selfless choice.
She chose herself by getting into college, securing her future. And then she chose Cara and Emmett to be Abel's permanent parents.
It wasn't abandoning him. It was the ultimate act of maternal love, ensuring he had the best possible environment. It's incredibly moving.
And it leads to that moment after Catherine leaves. Abel asks Cara.
"Are we going home now, Mommy?" Just devastatingly simple.
And Cara's tearful reply, "We're going home, Abel." It just seals it. The end of one dream led to something deeper. A family built on choice, intention, resilience.
The immediate family unit is formed, but we have to circle back to that wider support system, the Vipers crew, because their role in cementing Cara's sense of belonging, her worth, is huge.
Their commitment is really something else. It goes way beyond just being friends. Like when Olivia and Carter had twins.
That gesture, naming them Hunter and Brodie, Cara's surname and Emmett's surname.
It's such a profound statement.
It's unmistakable. It says, you are not just welcome here, you are foundational to this family. It completely silenced those lingering doubts Cara had that maybe she wasn't truly in because she hadn't given birth. It welded her lineage to theirs, permanently.
And amidst all the seriousness, the trauma, the infertility, Emmett's high-stakes career, they never lost their sense of, well, absurdity. The Vipers, guys.
That humor was essential. It was the pressure valve. Carter's ridiculous debates, like about the plural of penis.
Penises versus peni. Classic Carter.
Or his Oreo commercial.
Yeah.
Professing his undying love for a cookie with Little Ireland.
Mm.
It's about prioritizing joy, silliness, fighting against that toxic masculinity that can creep into pro sports.
And Lennon's tactic poking videos of the guys just being dads, being carefree on game days.
Like the Officer Daddy incident with the little police SUV. That was brilliant. It wasn't just funny, it was tactical. Messing with the other team's heads, sure, but also constantly reinforcing that life, family, balances the career.
It's that functional stability again, showing up, being present, having fun, everything Emmett missed as a kid.
Exactly. And Carter, for all his absurdity, actually drops this piece of wisdom that helps Cara reframe everything. He talks about the term high maintenance.
Right. When she was stressing about media trash talk, what did he say?
He basically said high maintenance is just a label, used to describe women who know their worth and refuse to accept anything less.
Mm-hmm.
And he applies it directly to her.
That's powerful reframing. Her intensity, her demanding respect, things some might see negatively, he positions them as strengths, as knowing her value.
And that external validation, combined with the healing she found through Abel and Emmett's unwavering support, leads to her final transformation. She gets it. Her worth was never tied to her womb.
She sees herself clearly. Fierce, capable.
And in her words, fucking priceless.
There's also that realization about happiness. It's not the fall, not the climb.
But the view from the top, understanding she survived something she thought would break her. That's pure post-traumatic growth. She didn't just heal, she emerged stronger, more compassionate.
And Emmett brings it all together with that mosaic metaphor.
It's beautiful, isn't it? He tells her heart is a mosaic, beautiful because of all the pieces woven together, the grief, the struggle, the joy, the trauma, not in spite of them. She's not broken, she's intricate, resilient. The scars are part of her strength.
It perfectly validates her whole journey. And Emmett's journey culminates in how he is with Abel, right? Breaking that cycle.
Completely. That final, quiet tradition he starts. It shows he's become the father he needed. Patient, unconditional, supportive. He's consciously chosen a different path from the rage and conditional love he experienced.
The kissing Abel's palm, the whispered promise.
If you and your mama were the only stars in my sky, that would be all I needed. Spoken to the son they fought so hard for, anchoring his entire world in the unconditional love he found with Cara and now shares with Abel. It replaces everything he lost, everything he never had. His world is finally stable, defined by choice and love.
It's really an incredible arc to trace, from that chaotic meeting through deep trauma, the agony of infertility, and finally building this family defined by resilience, by choice, not just biology.
Yeah, the source material really drives home that strength often emerges from vulnerability and that real love, unconditional love, can withstand pretty much anything: failure, loss, trauma.
And just to ground this, we're drawing heavily from the work of author Becka Mack, based in Ontario. This story is part of a larger series, and you can tell the depth of research that went into depicting the emotional and medical realities here.
Definitely. Even the acknowledgments speak to the community needed to write something this intense.
So Cara realized she was enough for Emmett before she fully believed she was enough for herself. That's a journey many people face. It leaves us with a question for you, the listener.
When you hit one of those moments, a major setback, a perceived failure, something that shakes your sense of self, who are you letting define your worth? Is it external voices or your own?
And how do you actively work to reclaim that power, that feeling of being enough for yourself, regardless of the circumstances? Something to think about.
Until next time, keep digging deeper.